Good one.
Hey. Feel that. What got me into music was a way to express myself and put my feelings out there and write out my thoughts. It was therapeutic because I grew up in a bit of a turbulent environment, and sometimes household was turbulent. So music was my way to express how I was feeling. Yeah, and with nobody being able to tell me what to do. You know what I mean? So I grew up around music, man. So my aunt is my first, she introduced me to a whole lot of music. I grew up around jazz and funk and soul and then rap. Rap just happened to be the one that more closely represented who I was and how it was expressed. But I grew up around all of that. So music's always been around. My grandma was a singer. So a lot of the details are unclear to me, but I know she had a record. Oh, cool. I don't know the name of it or what the song was, but I know she had a record. Oh, that's cool. Because she died when I was 6. So when things got tough with my immediate family, financially, me and my brother would stay with my aunt over by Woodline. Then when my parents got everything together, we come back, that type of thing. Art was my first thing, drawing and things like that, animals and art. But then, in 5th grade, I started writing poetry, but I went to a foster home in 6th grade, and there was an older kid there that rapped. And I was like, oh, I could do that, and I started trying it, and I liked it. And also around that time, I ran into Tupac, and I was impressed with the fact that what he was saying related to me, and it was truthful, and it was blunt, and it was honest, man. So that's what I liked about Tupac's music. And you could feel it. You could see what he was saying, too. So that's what I liked about it. I was like maybe 15, 16. It was at Benson High School. Oh, okay. It was called the Tech Idol, like a talent show that we had every year. And me and my friends, I was in a group at that time called Turf Bangers. It was me, my homeboy Corey, and then my homegirl Antia. And we performed that day, and they almost shut down the Tech Idol because of the reaction, man. So it was crazy. First performance, and it went wild. People rushed the stage, that type of thing. So definitely, it was a good first introduction. I was nervous as hell the whole day. But then, when the curtains opened, all that stuff went away. It was different, man. Going to Benson, the economic level of people that went there was a lot higher than what I was used to. So there was kids who had debit cards and kids who knew they was getting Jordans on this day, and it was just different. It was super different. I went there because I got into a lot of trouble at my middle school, George. And I felt like if I would have went to Roosevelt, I would have went to school with a whole lot of people I already knew, and I would have got in more trouble. So I got into Central Catholic on a football scholarship.
Okay. That's awesome.
But it was $6,000 a year, and they offered to pay $3,000 a year, but that still was too much for my parents. So I made the decision and said, look, I'm gonna just go to Benson. I got a schedule and everything to go to Central Catholic, but then I went to Benson. Concrete Dreams to me is it's basically the mind state of you coming from an environment that isn't really conducive to dreams and goals and things like that, but also having the foresight to see beyond that and go beyond that and still dream in these type of environments. Because I feel like that's what I come from. I come from a lot of shit, and I could have easily went left and said, look, this is what's normal here. I could just be doing this. But I've always had a vision of doing more than what I come from and more than what I see around me, and that's what Concrete Dreams is about. My parents have always supported me in doing music or anything, because they know if I put my mind to something, it's going to be positive. It's something that they know that about me. Music is a family thing once again, so they push whatever I wanted to do that was positive. I got a Benson. I wanted to go to Grambling, coming out of Benson. And I played football all throughout my life too, so that was my other thing. They kind of ran
What'd you play?
side by side. I played defensive tackle and everything on the offensive line pretty much. I went to PCC for a little bit, but I was like, fuck this. But I kept doing music, so I couldn't record at my high school anymore because I had graduated. So I started going up to Roosevelt High School, and that's where I met Glenn Waco or Dracy. He was a student there. Him and Vinny went to Roosevelt at this time. And I knew Vinny already, but I had met Dracy before Waco, but he was younger than me by a good amount of years, so I never really talk to him, but that's where I met him. And there was a studio at Roosevelt, and Dracy pretty much ran it, being the engineer and stuff.
That's cool.
So me and my homeboy Corey, we would just go up there and record. Then the following year, I got a job there running the studio. It's like through Sun School, and then from there we kept going. That's a good question. I'm thinking of it mentally. I think my favorite one might be Razor Tongue. My personal favorite, Razor Tongue or 15 Cents. I say Razor Tongue because it's just raw. There wasn't a set subject matter. It was just venting at that time. And I wrote that over a span of probably like 2 years. I wrote the first half of it first and then the second half later.
Really?
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah. I like the beat. I like the grimy production. Is by Brixton Chase. So, yeah.
What's that about?
I think it just speaks to being a black. It speaks to being a black male in America or a black person in America. The struggles you go through just trying to survive, man, and stay on the right path and not go to jail for trying to survive. You know what I mean? Just always sticking to what you're doing. And also, I feel like it opens up the conversation to people who aren't black. They can relate to it. They can find a way to relate to it or have questions. My whole point of my music is to make people think. So at the end of the day, if you're thinking, that's what it's about.
Do you still, how do you feel about your older material now that you've kind of finished this album, you know what I'm saying? Like
what do you mean by older material?
Like just like
when I was younger?
Yeah.
My older material, I could rap real good back then, but like I wasn't talking about shit. I was doing what was trending. I think all rappers start out that way, talking about things that are in until you find your identity, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this. So I kind of cringed to when I listened to my old shit. It's not bad, but it's not like, it doesn't touch people. You know what I mean? And that's what the whole point of music is to me. If I can live off of it, that'd be dope. I do imagine myself living off it, and I think that will be the case. But I also want to be able to use music as a stepping stone to do other things, to help people, you know what I mean? Like, help the youth in inner city communities. So I work for this program called Step Up out of Roosevelt High School. We work with at-risk youth. I work with freshmen, so I get assigned 15 freshmen. We do home visits, take them on mentoring trips, come up with success plans for them in and out of school. We coordinate with teachers to help the kids, all types of things. So it's like an advisor or a counselor. We do all of that, advising, counseling, and tutoring. Man, I could be riding on a bus and hear a conversation and it spark a song. Or I could be walking down the street and hear a word or see a word and it can spark a song. Or I could be watching TV. I don't watch a lot of TV, but see something and it sparks a song. Or be on social media and see a certain conversation or see somebody say something and it sparks a concept. So there's no one way of how, of the process. But usually if we're doing technically, like, I'll play the beat. I'll go through beats, and if a beat sticks out, I'll stay there with it. Then I'll kind of rap to myself to find a cadence, and then I'll think of a concept. Usually the first 4 bars will take me in the area of what concept I want to do, and I'll just stick to that. Whereas when I was younger, I would go hook first. You know what I mean? Like, I would listen to the hook part first and come up with a hook, and then do the verses. I don't do that as much anymore.
What about like a song like No More? Did that come hook first, or was that?
That's a good question. Did it come hook first?
It's a good hook, you know.
No, that didn't come hook first. It came verses first, and then I don't know how I got that hook. I guess it just came to me. You asking some good questions about like the intricacies of the songs. Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, I'm a fan, so it's fun. I get to actually just ask you some questions.
Yeah, I think that hook came by just like, I might have wrote the first verse and thought about what I was talking about, and then the hook came. Favorite part of the process, either performing, writing, or recording it. Because I get to finally, all this shit I've been practicing for all these hours writing and going over it 100 times, I finally get to get it out and hear what it sounds like over a beat. Because before that, I'm just imagining it. So I'd say the recording process.
That makes sense, yeah.
And then I'd say performing, and then I'd say the writing process. Sometimes the writing process is grueling. I like it, but I just like it the least.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you say like a track like Razor Tongue was like over 2 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because when you hear it, it just flows, and it's just like, oh, it's just like this 3-minute thing, you know? But like, 2 years of back and forth on it.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Who do you like collaborating with, like when you're
in the city?
Yeah, when you get in the studio, I'm sure you got people who are producing the beats, and then you've got people mixing it. And
in the studio, I tend to be in there by myself.
Oh yeah.
With myself and the engineer. Right now, I go through Zebulon Deck. Over at Momentum Studios, so usually it's just me and him. I'm not the type of person that likes to have a whole lot of people in the studio. I don't see the purpose of it. So, yeah, that's how I tend to do it. I'll have a lot of the time, most of the time I'll have it memorized, the music that I wrote, but I definitely try shit out. Or if I do have somebody else in there, they'll say, hey man, maybe you could try it this way. If it works, I'll do it. But for the most part, it's me and the engineer, and I'll try new shit. If I listen to it, if he plays it back and I'm like, I could do something there, I'll redo it. Yeah. I tend to keep it tight when I don't work with a whole lot of different people, man, unless it makes sense. So I've worked with Rashid Jamal, Glenn Waco, Gifted Gab, with Vinny Dwayne, Dre Slaps. I work with a lot of different producers. That's what I do. But as far as rappers, no, because a lot of my music is personal. So it wouldn't make sense to have somebody else put that stamp on something that's personal. If it makes sense, yeah. But if not, I'm open to working with singers and stuff like that. I mean, locally, I've met Mike Crenshaw. I've admired him. That was one of the first people I heard. I seen rap. You know what I mean? But growing up, I didn't grow up listening to local music at all, probably. I heard of people. I've always heard of Cool Nuts, man. He's an inspiration. Who else?
You haven't gotten to run into you haven't bumped into Snoop or anything?
Nah, man. Right? Like a lot of my inspirations, like Tupac is my biggest one. I can't meet him, obviously. Scarface is another one.
Yeah.
Another inspiration is Nas. Tupac, Scarface, Nas, DMX. It'd be dope to meet him. DMX is one of my favorites. Kanye West. I like more of the old Kanye West stuff, but still Kanye West is an inspiration.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see what he's doing.
Yeah, I feel like anybody who's come from a hard background and found a way to rise up and live out their dreams, man, I pull for that. So I'm inspired by Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole as well too. So yeah. Because I look at those guys as like, whenever I have writer's block, I look at those guys and that's how I get out of writer's block. I hear something they do, I listen to something they did and try to write something better.
Nice.
That's just what it is. Yeah.
Do you feel like it's kind of competitive, or is there a sport element of it to you?
There's a sport element of hip hop. There always will be. But when I'm writing songs and making music and how I carry myself, it's not about that. I feel like I'm trying to be better than my last self. You know what I mean? And I write music with concepts and things. My music is to touch people. Battling and all that shit is cool, but I feel like that's not my purpose with my music. I'm trying to inspire people.
Yeah.
It's hard to, I don't listen to people and pick up what they do, I guess.
Right, yeah.
A lot of my music, I'll play the beat and then I'll just start writing and it'll come out that way. Honestly, that's what it is.
That's awesome.
I just write off instinct, really, honestly. I think it's why a lot of people tell me I don't sound like nobody else, or because I'm not into copying anybody or subconsciously copying anybody. It's just, I just write.
Do you think you'll try different things out as you
I'm definitely, I already know what I'm gonna do after this one.
What's
yeah,
that?
I wanna do a CD with live instruments. That's what I grew up around, jazz and all of that. So that's why a lot of my beats have that influence in them. Or I like beats with feeling in them. I don't like beats. Trap is okay, but I can't do that shit all the time. No, I can rap over that shit easy though.
You get a live band on stage too. It's just it's epic. Yeah.
Something I noticed with live bands, though, the hard part is that sometimes the instruments overpower the voice.
It does happen a lot, yeah. You gotta rehearse that shit.
I'm a fan of hearing the words of what they're trying to say, but if the instruments are too loud, it's like...
Yeah.
I feel like anybody who's heard my music in the city, for the most part, back me and they support what I'm doing. Yeah. And they share my music. Any form of support, whether you like my music, share it, come to a show, buy my music, tell somebody else about my music, that's cool to me. I feel like I have a good following in Portland right now. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm doing, as far as festivals and all that shit, I'm doing almost every one that you can do in Portland, as far as hip hop, so, yeah. All right, throughout life, kind of been ignored by the majority in Portland because, yes, I am black. So when I get on stage, it's the opportunity for me to make people hear me, and that's what happens.
That's great.
And I feel like there's like-minded white people who believe what I believe as well. I believe when they come to a show, people that know about my music, they know what they're gonna get out of it. I feel like they're not just gonna get music. I talk to the crowd as well in between, and it's about keeping the crowd engaged. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't feel a certain way about. I'm not mad at that, Yeah. I mean, I was born here for a reason. Mm-hmm. Just because the city's all white, for the most part, doesn't mean that I can't be successful here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Music is universal, man. Hip hop is the biggest form of music in the world. So, at the end of the day, I come to do what I want to do. To me, I try to put myself in front of a new crowd all the time.
Oh, that's cool.
So I don't care what color the crowd is or anything like that. I would like if more black people showed up, but I know people have lives, and a lot of my shows are during the week. People have work. People got this. I'm not gonna go out to be selfish like that and say, oh, Right. I've thought that before, but then there's critical thinking involved, man. Everybody can't make your show. Everybody didn't hear about your show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody don't have the money to do that that night. So it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Don't bother me, man. To me, I feel like this is fertile training ground.
Yeah.
I feel like it's fertile training ground. If you can rock a crowd here, I feel like you can rock a crowd anywhere. You got people that the more lyrical storytelling rap that comes out of St. John's. You got more of the artsy rap, you know what I mean? That's more like bright and sound and like not necessarily super lyrical, but it's interesting enough to like
Amine and that, like the Latin
that's like more like the pop rap, you know what I mean? Okay, yeah. And that's dope too. You got what other types of rap you got? There's just so many different sounds in Portland, you know what I mean? From Mikey Fontaine to Immaculate to there's so many.
Yeah.
You can go to shows and get different sounds. Yeah. I'm independent.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I gotta pay for all my shit by myself. So
no, that's so good.
Trying to find ways to get other people to pay for this shit.
Yeah.
I think people will, but that's one of my things I gotta overcome. Is like it's hard for me to ask for help.
Sure.
That's a lifelong thing for me. So
yeah.
What I want is gonna happen. I just gotta pace it. I don't ever look at any other artist or anybody else and say, man, I wish I had that right now. It's like it's gonna happen when it happens. I mean, like, I'm not stressing it.
That's dope.
My path has progressed naturally. I like my shit to be organic. I don't like to overreach for things.
Yeah.
Especially if I feel like I'm going outside of myself, trying to do it. Relocation?
Yeah, like whether you have
like you have to move to be successful?
Yeah.
I feel like every artist should get outside of the city they live in and get that music across the nation or across the world. I mean, traveling, I feel like is part of being an artist, or hip-hop artist. I feel like you can have a foundation in a certain city, but I feel like you can't just stay stagnant and be in one city unless you have like the coldest marketing team on earth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but you got to travel. You got to meet people. You got to network with people. I think that's in life with anything you want to be successful with. 5 years down the line, I like to be living off of my music and touring independently, or if it's a deal that makes sense, I do it. But and saving my money and owning a house and marrying my girlfriend and living life, having my career and then having my family life.
Why are you so level-headed, man? Why are you so like straightforward and awesome about like this shit?
Because I come from a lot. I come from a lot of. I come from a lot of shit that I don't want for myself or my future family later. So it's pretty clear to me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about a lot of fancy shit and all of that. So as long as I can support the people I love with what I'm doing, I'm good.